Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Thursday, January the 11th, 2025, and this is program number 1116, and I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, if in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also follow us on our website. It is rcistlucia.com. We're streaming live there, and we're also available on our Facebook live feed. Of course, you just have to go to the page, the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook, and you can get that link right there. And please share it with your friends and family. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number, 724-0008. You can message in. You can call in to that WhatsApp number as well. Again, it is 724-0008. Now, some birthday greetings going out today to Mr. Morris Norville. Happy birthday to you, sir. Wishing a very wonderful birthday celebration. And also sending birthday greetings out to Mrs. Sarita Peter. Happy birthday to you. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday. And also to Miss Maria Lewis. She's celebrating her birthday as well today. So wishing her the very best of birthdays. Hope it is a great one indeed. And for those of you who are interested in some celebrities born on this day, cricketer, famous batsman Rahul Dravid of India, he turns 51 today. Mary J. Blige turns 53 today. And as well, gentleman who just recently designed a golf course that's getting lots of ratings around the world. That is the Cabot course up at Point Hardy in here in St. Lucia. He is a former golfer, still very much in the industry. Mr. Ben Crenshaw, he turns 72 today as well. Bit of history for today. Well, very interestingly enough, the first recorded lottery ticket in England was drawn in the year 1569 on this day, and it was actually drawn at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The prize at that time was £5,000, and other prizes included a silver plate, tapestries, and high-quality linen cloth. In the year 1599 on this day, Jacob van Neck and his fleet left Bantam in Java in modern-day Indonesia with over 1 million pounds of pepper and cloves, and a further half of a ship full of nutmeg, mace, and cinnamon. And of course, that was one of the early ventures by the Dutch, by the Netherlands, into what eventually became known as the Dutch East Indies through their special purpose company that they set up very famously. Now, in the year 1838, the first public demonstration of telegraph messages was sent using dots and dashes at the Speedwell Iron Works, and that happened in Morristown, New Jersey, by Samuel Morse and Alfred Vail. In 1879, on this day, the Anglo-Zulu War began as British Lieutenant General Lord Chelmsford invaded Zululand in South Africa. 1922, on this day, January the 11th, saw insulin used for the first time on humans to treat diabetes. And that happened by Frederick Banting injecting fellow Canadian Leonard Thompson, who was about 14 at the time. And in 1964, on this day, the first government report by the United States Surgeon General Luther Terry warning that smoking may be hazardous. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, we're looking at a number of issues today. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to get through all of them, but just to first touch on, as I mentioned earlier, on the matter of the golf course up at Cap Estate, the second golf course, second 18-hole golf course, which originally was being developed as part of a project a good number of years back, around maybe almost 20 years back now, known as the Raffles. And the plan at that time was the establishment of a second Cap Estate golf course. Of course, Cap Estate, that section of land on the northern side of St. Lucia, known as Cap, about 1,500 acres originally. And in fact, interestingly enough, one of the first French governors of St. Lucia, way back in the 1740s, a gentleman by the name of de Longueville, in fact, owned the property there, and where there is now what is known as the Great House at Cap was where he, in fact, had his estate. Very interesting gentleman in some respects, because he actually was involved in a number of suppressions of slave uprisings, including an earlier slave uprising which actually happened in a Danish colony of St. John in the Virgin Islands in the 1730s. And in those days, of course, there was quite a lot of unity when it came to suppression of slaves and slave revolts, regardless of whether the country might have been English or French or Danish. And in fact, the French came to the rescue of the Danes, so to speak, in that colony, suppressing what was, in fact, perhaps one of the most successful revolts up to that point in terms of slaves actually, and enslaved Africans being able to take control of that island for nearly 6 months. And this gentleman went on to, in fact, become the one of the first governors, French governors of St. Lucia. And you can well understand, in fact, he himself was engaged in suppressing a slave revolt right here in St. Lucia as well. And of course, he ended up owning Cap Estate, and since then, it's gone through many different hands and for many different purposes. At one point in time, it was also a cattle ranch. And of course, later on in the 1960s, it got bought over by a former, I think, British Colonel Harrison, who ended up trying to develop it as part of a gated community. And of course, since that time, again, it still has gone on a number of different owners. But that last large section of Cap on the eastern side, Point Hardy, was being developed as part of a golf course. And of course, we then saw a golf resort, one can say, not just the course itself, but of course, many of those projects were highly leveraged through the sale of properties, high-end properties. And it then experienced a crash, so to speak, and a cessation of that attempt at creating that 18-hole golf course. And that was as a result of the global financial crisis. And at that time, back around 2006, 2009, 2009 or thereabouts when we saw a lot of golf course projects popping up in St. Lucia. And I think at one point one might have actually counted potentially up to 9 different proposals for the construction of golf resorts, golf courses here in St. Lucia. Of course, the Raffles one, as I mentioned, was one example. There was a proposal for a 9-hole golf course in the Comret area, and that's just somewhat south of that Cap Estate area in east of the Beauséjour community on the northeast coast. There was another proposal for a golf course, golf resort in the Marquis area. That was being done by a company by the name of Harlequin. And of course, some of you would recall that, in fact, they were also present in establishing a hotel over in St. Vincent. In fact, one can say perhaps St. Vincent's first resort-style hotel at Bookament Bay, just north of the capital of Kingstown. And that project, in fact, faced some issues in terms of flooding as a result of, and of course, right now it's has since been acquired by the Sandals Resorts International and is currently being shortish to be opened, in fact, as a Sandals Resort. But it was opened originally by Harlequin, and they were also here in St. Lucia looking at establishing a golf resort, taking up large swaths of land in the Marquis area, including extensive amounts of agricultural lands as well. And that is part of the challenge, of course, of golf resorts, because they take up lots of land. And you're probably talking about 180 acres minimum required to actually undertake such a development. And of course, invariably, it's far more than that, because the developers are looking to sell real estate, and so they would certainly be looking to have property for sale as well. In the case of Cabot, for instance, we're speaking about, I think, 360 acres or so of land under both freehold and leasehold. That leasehold being the King's Chain, or the coastal parts of that area. In addition to, of course, Harlequin and the Marquis project, you recall that actually failed. And in fact, later on, the major partners in that ended up in jail in the United Kingdom because they were engaged in defrauding persons out of their pension funds. A sizable number of individuals purchased properties beforehand without necessarily having any title to the property as yet. And of course, lots of them lost their pension savings. So it certainly did not go down very well in the United Kingdom, and it certainly again reminds us of the challenges of investment and the importance of having the necessary due diligence in respect of many of these projects. There were also proposals for Grand Anse at one point in time as well. Again, golf resort, Louvet, also on that northeast coast and in a very ecologically sensitive area, one of the last remaining areas of St. Lucia where you still have living in the wild the St. Lucia iguana, that creature from which we originally got our name, Hiwanora or Ayanola or Iwanalawa, the land of the iguana. And it's one of the few places where that St. Lucia iguana still remains. Of course, there are other areas, unfortunately, where you have invasive iguana species like in Soufrière, where individuals have actually brought in iguanas, and they've ended up being escaping into the wild, and that is in fact not the St. Lucia iguana, completely different species there. But in Louvet, you can in fact still get that. And of course, in the case of Grand Anse, one of the major ecological hotspots as well, and in particular the beach there, perhaps the largest beach in St. Lucia by virtue of the volume of sand that is present, and certainly a very long stretch of beach as well. Very important for the nesting of leatherback turtles, which of course travel very, very far back to their place of birth to in fact give birth as well. And even south of Louvet, there at Fordor, there was also a proposal for a similar golf resort project in that area. And south of that again, in the Prale area, that one perhaps was one of those which actually got furthest ahead in terms of development, and that was the now somewhat infamous Le Paradis project, which was being developed on what was formerly Prale Estate, one of the last large estates in St. Lucia, over 500 acres of land there. And it, of course, began similar construction of the golf course up on the plateau on the hillside, as well as hotel resort on the seaside in what was in fact formerly a trail and protected area. And in addition to that project, where we know what happened there, it ended up collapsing as well because of financing issues during that global financial crisis. It all got wrapped up into the whole Clico debacle and faced issues there. And in fact, that property, as far as I understand, is still legally the property of the Deposit Insurance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, which was established by the government of Trinidad and Tobago in the wake of the crisis with Clico Financial Holdings. And in addition to that project, there were other golf resort projects right down the East Coast. And so nearly every bay that you might think of with any kind of large degree of flat land had been identified, and projects were developed to be able to hope to get a golf resort somewhere there. Forest State, for instance, had a proposal at one point in time as well, similarly along the coastline. The Trumasse Estate, again another very large estate of nearly 1,200 acres or so, also proposal by a development group to put in a golf resort project there. And further south, in the Canals area, where currently there is in fact a hotel resort under construction by a Chinese investor, Galaxy, there too there was a proposal for a golf resort project as well, which was supposed to have been the golf component of the Black Bay development, which was being proposed by under a Ritz-Carlton brand. And of course, we recall all of the issues of the Black Bay lands and how those lands ended up being lost, and issues of that Icelandic bank collapsing, and then of course even more recently attempts by other players to sort of resuscitate it through the use of the CIP, the Citizenship by Investment Program, was not successful. And of course, we recall the issues there under the Alan Chastney administration, where that developer had in fact gone out and was able to get investors through that CIP program. Monies were collected, but then they couldn't access the money because the government then wanted to change the arrangement, and then they got sued, and then we saw what occurred after that. In fact, government having to reacquire what had already been reacquired again, and also to pay the developer monies in that regard. And so we've seen a number of these projects, the vast majority of these projects, to be quite honest, have not been successful. And it really goes to show how development needs to be handled very, very, very carefully. We tend to, some people may think that, well, this is you're going to have to try to do quite a lot of different projects and try your luck at many different hands, and hopefully one will succeed. And that's one school of thought, perhaps, but it's also a very dangerous one, too, because in many instances, these projects get started. They have ecological, environmental impacts that are still being felt, and the projects don't get completed, but the damage is already done. And so the country, in fact, is poorer for it. Quite often, the land is merely just an asset which is used for speculative purposes and a conduit for making money. But then invariably, quite often, these projects don't get to the point of completion and actual operational success. And in the case of Cabot, well, we're seeing that they've managed to get at least to the point where they've now launching their course, or trying to they've done a soft launch, and of course are trying to raise a lot of interest with respect to that. And the course designers Bill Corr and Ben Crenshaw, as I mentioned earlier on, former golfers, they have actually pointed out that in the case of Point Hardy, in the case of that course at Cap Estate, any ordinary individual could have designed some of the holes. And that statement, what that really means, really, is that it's so beautiful that it's pretty easy to, it doesn't take much imagination to actually design it. And certainly that has been the reason why it is being touted as one of the most beautiful courses in the world. It is by pure dint of the majesty of and beauty of our topography that you have such areas existing. Of course, there have been many challenges over the years with respect to that project, including the matter of how to protect sacred places or sacred spaces, places of archaeological importance, and within that area, on the King's Chain there in Casabah, very important archaeological site called Anslavut. And at that site, in fact, thus far, perhaps the largest known collection of human remains found from that period, from that pre-Columbian period, before the arrival of Columbus, before European colonization, of the indigenous peoples who inhabited this island. And certainly one of the most significant sites, even within the Eastern Caribbean context, by virtue of the number of skeletal remains, skeletal bodies that were actually found on that site, showing a fairly continuous period of occupation. And of course, lots to learn and to understand and to appreciate with respect to many of these sites. In addition to that, of course, the importance of ensuring that livelihoods are protected, and that it is certainly just not about wealthy investors coming in and making a mint, and the local community does not benefit. And of course, that is a very fundamental issue in the nature of many of these types of developments, that you do not want them to become exclaves. You do not want them to keep out everybody, and as a result, people who are in fact have been eking out livings in the area can still do just that. And of course, the Casbah beach area is very popular in terms of kite surfing, in terms of horseback riding, individuals going on walking tours as well. So lots of different users are already in place. And how do you ensure that the public still has access to the seaside, still has access to the very thing that is our birthright, and that people are talking about now as being so gorgeous, so beautiful. The comparisons being made in many of these articles that are finding themselves, the Globe and Mail and Golf, other golf magazines, pretty much, making the point that it's as beautiful as Pebble Beach. It's better than Pebble Beach, that famous course over in California in the United States of America, one of the most famous courses in the world. And to have a St. Lucian golf course being put up there as perhaps one of the best in the world, certainly a good accolade, and hopefully should result in benefit to St. Lucians. And that, of course, is where we have to be very mindful about development, because you can have the best golf course in the world. The question is, how is that impacting your own people? Are they becoming the best golfers in the world? Is the St. Lucian going to become the next Tiger Woods? Is there going to be that opportunity within that context for St. Lucians to be able to benefit from all that interest with respect to golf? Now, as I mentioned, there was that time when we saw a grand plethora of potential courses coming up, and as of now, we pretty much only have two. And that big question was, how many can you sustain in the case of a small island with 152,000 acres of land? And how much can we sustain from many different perspectives, in terms of the amount of land it takes up, in terms of the amount of water it actually takes up as well. These tend to be very water-hungry entities, facilities, to maintain those lawns and to keep them a certain pristine way. And of course, the large amounts of fertilizers tend to be used as well, and that too can actually have impacts on the effluent and the marine water quality and river water quality as well in some places, and the implications that you have in these settings. All of these things have to certainly be looked at so as to ensure good, balanced, and sustainable development. Now, that's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then head to taking in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bosses Joe Lanes, and Flax Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Island style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style. We have times and
sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
National of Coastal 1.1. It's now time for a weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from between the east, northeast, near 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour with occasional gusts. And there is an advisory in areas read small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to brisk winds and locally rough seas. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles over the Leeward and Southern Windward Islands, partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy and breezy with widely scattered showers. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy and breezy with a few showers. And the weather summary, 2 weak shell lines over the region will cause an increase in cloudiness and widely scattered showers over the central and northern portion of the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds and locally rough seas across the Lesser Antilles during the next few days. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. It's 24 minutes before the hour of 2 o'clock. And of course, that number to call in and tell us what's on your plate today, it is 4523046, as well as our WhatsApp number 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad.
Wonderful.
Yeah. We're talking about Cabot. Now, Cabot was very, very, very lucky. Sometimes everything you're doing, you must have a little luck in there. Because Cabot come with nothing, and by the time Cabot take over, Cabot demarcated some of the land and sell it, and they pick up 50 million in just an IBIT, and they pay NIC whatever they was owing an NIC, and still have millions in their hand to do what they had to do. But not everybody that's so lucky.
Well,
That's a big development.
Yeah. It's an interesting point that you're making. Timing is something, yeah, and all getting an opportunity. Even the experience of Cabot over in Canada, which we spoke about in the
Yeah.
past, they were very, very, very fortunate there as well. They were able to get a place along the coast in Nova Scotia that was formerly a coal mine, and the town there was very keen to get some sort of development. So they were able to get the land for $1.
Yeah, there was
Very-
perks there,
and
big perks they get
and,
there.
and in addition to that, the Canadian federal government, through an agency which was developed to support the what known as the
Airport
Atlantic
where
and
the people fly to come there.
yeah.
That wasn't there before.
Well, there was a whole issue of the airport too. Yes, very correct, caller. And they wanted a new airport to have been built, and getting the authorities to actually get it built, so that people could fly. And because that location in Cape Breton is very far away, it's a very good drive out from Halifax,
Yeah.
and so people wanted to be able to fly in their private planes, and so that was another issue. And also, they got a lot of support, financial support from a special government agency which had been set up by the Canadian government to support investment in those provinces, the maritime provinces, because they would tended to be, lagging behind in terms of development, and so they definitely got a lot of luck there. And then, of course, we know the story here in St. Lucia as well, where this property was under receivership for a very long time, under the Bank of Nova Scotia. And again, no doubt, whatever contacts that may have existed, allowing for this, trying to get that property. And of course, the government also, through the National Insurance Corporation, providing a significant loan for the purchase of the property by Cabot. So, I mean, let's put it this way. There are a lot of St. Lucian companies who don't get that kind of, facility,
They hardly get anything.
to say that they're going to get a loan from the National Insurance Corporation, So a lot of, certainly, as you could perhaps put it, luck. Well, yeah.
Yeah. What I like to know, when those companies come in to St. Lucia, they asking them how much money you come in with. How much money you
Oh,
intend
caller,
to spend.
that's also a very, very important question, because
Because
we've heard so
the
many
reason why I'm
times.
saying that,
No,
a
you're
lot
right.
of those people abroad, they think those little islands in the Caribbean, they used to come and look for treasure, but there is no treasure left. They are bounty hunters.
Interesting
And they will come
descriptions.
with any scheme where they can make big money.
Yeah, no, we've seen a lot of that, caller. We've seen a lot of people, exactly as you say. Sometimes, in some instances, they have enough to purchase the properties. In many instances, they don't. And what ends up happening is that they create a project. They try to get an approval for that project, or approval in principle. And then they look for supporters, investors who may want to come in to join them to be able to develop the project. But you're right, in very many instances, the
Yeah,
wherewithal
well, what
of
you
those
say there,
investors,
most of the place
quote
you
unquote,
mentioned on your plate, you find that most of these companies come in St. Lucia and they never finish. All the place you name there, hardly anyone finish the job, what they come to do, the investment they come to do. And it is because of money.
Mm-hmm.
They run out of money. And that's the reason why they cannot finish those projects.
Yeah, and the whole investment framework is a very important thing to look at. And I mean, you have the investment promotion agency, as that is Invest St. Lucia, and it is their job to undertake due diligence, look at the capacity of the developer or whoever is coming in to invest, ensure that they in fact have the means to be able to undertake such a project. We have also tried to encourage investment by way of creating avenues which would encourage people to support a project, which is why the whole CIP, Citizenship by Investment program, was primarily established for encouraging investment. We've seen, of course, it has been used for a lot of other things like direct government payments or revenue or what have you. But it was originally framed in most places around the world as an investment promotion scheme. Even in the United States of America.
There was law about the CIP. That CIP, they had the law. You cannot do this and you cannot that. The ex-prime minister went to parliament and he took everything out where law concerned, and he just could have just take out the CIP and do what the hell he wants with it. And that is wrong.
Well, I'm not sure if we can say that he took out the laws. The law still stands, but he did try to amend them. And in some instances, even without amending them, he tried to change the system without amending it.
The whole system he tried to change.
So that is why there was that very same issue with the Black Bay lands, the 2.0, I can call it. You know, because after all that happened with Black Bay in the past, then to see this other attempt at developing Black Bay come to naught because of, trying to change the system, as you rightly said, yes, he did, without actually amending the legislation, and then he then had to go back to try to amend it.
Our law is the I have it, the eyes have it, and they had a majority.
Well, yeah, of course, and he could have certainly gone through that process, but I guess he wasn't too minded to, or maybe he didn't quite understand it at the time that he had to go through a certain process, whatever the case may be.
But the other thing I would like to know, that Pearl, what you call it, the jewel of the Caribbean.
The DSH, Desert Star Holdings, Pearl of the Caribbean project.
The Atlas Group, what you know about the Atlas Group that's taking over?
I am not aware that the Atlas Group is taking over the DSH project. I have not. We have. Did something? Was something announced in that regard?
That coming to take over the Atlas Group.
As far as I can recall, caller, from what I recall hearing, any mention of the Atlas Group has been with respect to the Mount Pima. Oh, that's what you're talking about.
That's it.
Caribbean Jewel. Okay, sorry.
Caribbean Jewel.
I got a little confused. I thought you were talking about DSH. Okay.
No, DSH. Caribbean Jewel.
Oh, well, I personally don't know very much about them, to be quite honest.
I think that's the first time when Ernest Hiller come and tell people one or two things, and I heard him mention the Atlas Group.
Well,
hello?
Yes, I'm here with you, caller.
He mentioned the Atlas Group and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do and what trail people pass, they will have to leave it. And I heard about that same trail where people used to walk in Strazel there, and they say they would have to go right round because they cannot cross.
Oh, you're talking about the Sabisha now? Yes.
Yes, Sabisha.
Well,
it's something like that will happen up there because people run there. There's track where people run in the morning.
Right. So there is a route that heads up to the bunker. There are a number of roads, some of which were predated any development of Caribbean Jewel there, and they were cut by the Americans during World War II to access some bunkers that existed. There's one
there's bunkers there,
on the lower end,
in the bunkers,
closer to the seaside, and there's also one that goes up to the hill, which is now sort of like a viewing point, and you can then see what is Tougasco and Mount Flabo and what is Francois Beach. So the big question is how, and in addition to that, there are quite a number of people now who are venturing up to the summit of Mount Pima, because of course you got a lovely hike there, a lovely view, and
it's a nice little hill.
And so you have that aspect of it too. So there are some existing users. Now, the question is how is it going to be designed so as to ensure that you can still have access to some of these things? Is there still going to be a hiking trail? Is there going to potentially, would you have to realign the hiking trail? Would you still have access potentially down to maybe Frossoir Beach? You know, those types of things do need to be looked at.
Yeah, but what the ex-prime minister wanted to do is to buy all the land. There is a quarry there. I don't know if it's the Clark who quarrying in the back there.
Yes,
And
there's a
to buy
quarry
all the
formerly.
land that border with that place. Yes, they would have put more land in. I don't know if he did succeed with that.
I don't believe that has been included, no. So you're talking about the quarry on the south side of that mountain,
on the south side. They
of that
wanted
hill,
to take the whole thing.
which is on the Boadoer side. I don't.
side.
Yeah, I don't believe that was in fact, that is not part of what has been acquired by.
Yeah,
this
because they
developer.
They wanted more land. They wanted to probably even develop on that side as well.
Oh, okay. Well, interesting. I mean, it is a very lovely area and lots of views and whatnot. But it's also
what they come in with. That Atlas group, are they very rich? What they come in with? What they going to give us? Are they coming to borrow money from us or start just like before? Start and they cannot finish because most of the big job we have in hotels and things in Lucia, they all come, but they all fail.
right. And from what we've been told, it's going to be a phased development. So that's very, very important. So let's hope that they're not biting off more than what they can chew. And that they, in fact, are going to phase it in such a way.
Chalet all on the hill and this, that, and the other.
Right.
They when they want the place, they come for it. They come with all this nice fashion and everything. But when they start, they never finish.
Now, as well, in addition to that, it, in my opinion, certainly does need to be designed in a very sensitive way to ensure that you're not impacting the view that you have of that hill, in particular from Mairie Beach and the other beaches along Rodney Bay and even Pigeon Island, because those two hills, Mount Pima, Mount Flabo, create a green backdrop, which is very, very attractive and which is what people want to see. They want to be able to feel that they're in a tropical island, that they're in paradise. They don't necessarily want to just simply see
a built-up area.
A built-up area. I mean, we've seen how somewhat unattractive that can be sometimes when you look at some areas. I'm not going to mention any particular ones, but these hills, and you're just looking at just pure massing of concrete. So you do want to ensure that there is care given towards the visual impact of what is designed in a very similar way to the kind of what had to be done in the case of the Peters management area. They did what was called a limits of acceptable change study, and that study was effectively seeing what could be done and how could you build in certain areas, and that what you're building is not impacting the view of individuals, and it's not taken away from that natural feel of what you're doing. So, of course, it then means that the heights of the buildings that you're putting there, the scale of them, the colors that you're using, the type of material that you're using on the roofs, all of those things need to be very well thought through so that it feels very organic and natural, and it's not just this massing of concrete. And so that is a very important consideration in my view, especially along that north face of Mount Pima.
Anyway, Mr. Judge,
Okay.
good afternoon.
Have a good one, caller. Have a good one indeed. Thanks very much for your contribution. And, of course, we can certainly take in some more calls. The number to call in is 452-3046, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number. It is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And of course, some very interesting points being raised by that caller, very important ones regarding development and ensuring that we get good development partners. Investors who are coming in, they need to be good development partners. It cannot certainly be that they're just looking at wealth extraction. It cannot be that they, I mean, obviously, everybody's looking to raise money and make money and create wealth, but how is that wealth, in fact, going to remain? How is that wealth going to impact the people who actually live within the country and for their benefit? That is very, very important. We have, over the years, this is our sad history as a region, that we have been places of extraction of wealth, right? And it cannot just be a matter of repatriation of money. And quite often we know that is in some places they want to be able to do that. How easily you can move money around is an important factor for investors, because many of these are multinational companies. Many of them may very well have interests in other parts of the world, or they want to expand, and so this is just another place to expand. But we have to ensure that they are good partners that are conscious of their development contribution, of their social responsibilities. They are ticking their ESGs in what areas that they can ensure that they are making a meaningful impact on development. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on, there are costs to the country that sometimes the developer never really sees, but in many other countries, in the United States of America, for instance, municipalities, when going through a process of approving a development, they look at what is that development going to do in terms of the impact on the broader community. It's not just about the immediate sector. Quite often, we think, okay, if it's a hotel, we will only consult hotels and we'll only consult tourism-related people, and think that is the long and short of it. There are far, far more stakeholders and people of interest when you look at any development. And that is because developments will invariably have spin-offs that may impact the amount of water that is available in our pipes. That's a real issue. Another 400, 500, 600 room hotel coming into the north of the island is going to have an impact on the water demand. And of course, the question is, will the water company be able to support? Would it then mean to support, to provide them with water? You may not get water for parts of the day. And those are the kind of impacts that we have to talk about when you speak about development. Will there be sufficient capacity on the already congested road network that we have? And how is that going to be tackled, both during the construction of the project, but also beyond, during the actual operationalizing of whatever project it may be? So looking at these impacts, environmental impacts, potential impacts to people who are operating other livelihoods. They may be fishers in the area. There may be other people who are engaging in economic activity. How are they impacted? And so it's really important that in a developer coming in, that there is that appreciation of the true impact of any one development, and to see how that in fact can influence the project and the country on a whole. In some places, they actually insist on what is known as a development contribution. And it takes the form quite often of saying, well, if you want to come in and actually build your hotel, you actually have to support, provide the municipal government or some entity with funds. Because guess what? Your project means that we have to now build a new junction, a new roundabout, or we have to widen the road, or we need to build the road to get to your area. Or even if you're building your immediate roads and the roads on your property, that traffic is having an impact somewhere else. So we still need to support that. So it certainly is something that we've got to think about, because the other challenge that we have invariably is that many of these developments are benefiting from tax breaks. So they, in fact, are not directly contributing a lot of tax to the countries. In many instances, they get corporate tax breaks. They get tax breaks on building materials, lots of exemptions on even things like the staff, who may be coming in. They may be getting property tax breaks as well. And sometimes those funds potentially could have been going towards the benefit of the broader community if they were collected, but invariably they're not. And so certainly looking at the overall scheme of the issue of tourism and that type of investment is very important. I believe the government is intending to bring forward this year some new legislation with respect to tourism, and trying to see whether it can broaden who actually benefits from tourism incentives. Right now, a lot of the incentives are geared towards hotels and not so much the many other players in the sector. And so that certainly is another matter that is of interest to look at, to see how that in fact pans out and to see what that legislation will look like. Now, tomorrow, we hope to touch on some other matters in the news. In particular, lots of interest being placed on some matters of religion. And there is, in fact, the matter of same-sex blessings, and the church announcing some changes regarding that, and allowances of blessings of persons who may be in same-sex relationships. So we'll be speaking about that and some of the reactions there as well, not just here in St. Lucia, of course, but around the world. Now, that's all the time we have here today at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, thanks for your contributions, and we will be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program here at RCI. I'm your host, Calix George Jr.